How are you, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Dentistry Beyond the Numbers. And wow, I mean, I got this whole thing written, but I got to tell you, I am so personally honored and pinching myself. I feel like I was thinking about it over the weekend. Without further ado, that is Dr. Howard Farran. Howard Farran has done, there's some Mount Rushmore people in my career and in dentistry. And Howard, you are absolutely there. I just want to go through a few accolades. He's the founder and owner of Dentaltown and Dental.com and Dentaltown magazine, platforms that have revolutionized how dental professionals connect and share knowledge. Just want to interject. I told Dr. Farran just a minute ago that he was the first chat line where communities can come and share dental ideas, share cases, comments. They were brutal and they were honest. And you had to bring really good stuff because they were really smart dentists that went there. I'm going to get into that with Dr. Farran over the next 30 minutes. With over 3 decades of clinical experience, in today's dental, name of his practice in Phoenix, Arizona, he has seamlessly blended clinical and business acumen, which is what we all want to do. In 2017, he lectured internationally since 1990, captivating audiences with his blunt humors and practical insights. Without any further ado, he wrote a book on uncomplicate business in the dental field. I could go on and on. Howard, thank you, Dr. Farran. I don't know where to go. I have so much respect. I just want to say on a personal note, I told him when I was creating my product, Snap-on Smile, I used to read Dentaltown religiously. I still do. And I just know that I looked at him as such a mentor. The people that were dentists saw a need, saw a niche, and just went and took a tremendous advantage of it. So I just want to say without further ado, Howard, thank you for coming and, welcome.
Well, thank you, Mark. It's an honor to be here, and please call me Howard.
All right, that's what I was waiting for. So Howard it is. Howard, let me ask you a question. I mean, your legacy is amazing, and people know you wherever you go. But what was it that really got you into dentistry? Why dentistry? I mean, why not publication?
Well, I grew up with 5 sisters, and my dad had a Sonic drive-in. And if I wanted to spend any time with my dad, I go to work with him, and I love Sonic, and I worked there every moment I wasn't in school. I worked in Sonic just to be with my dad, and he did well with that. And eventually, we moved to a nice neighborhood, and our neighbor was Kenny Anderson, and he was a dentist from Creighton University, valedictorian.
Not the basketball player.
No, and so I used to go to work with Kenny sometimes, and I would go to work with my dad, the love of my life, but we made hamburgers and chili dogs and French fries and onion rings. And back then, there was no internet or computers or anything like that, but that x-ray machine and that dark room and doing root canals, and my gosh, it was love at first sight. And I decided in the 7th grade, I wrote my dental school letter asking how do I become a dentist? And they told me I had to go to high school and take science classes, and then
Gave you a whole roadmap.
Yeah, but what's funny is when I did get accepted, when I did go to UMKC, Darlene, I think her name was Darlene Winger, that rings a bell. But anyway, she saved the letter. And she said, I knew you were going to come. She goes, wow. You don't get many letters in the 7th grade, but she goes, I could tell you were really going to be here. But so I'd say Kenny Anderson.
Wow. Awesome. That's your answer. You're sticking with it.
Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you, when did you, here you are, you're starting to practice what is it called? Town Dental or?
Today's Dental.
Today's Dental. So you're starting your practice, you're working, you love dentistry from the get-go, right? It was what you wanted. What possessed you to open up a magazine? I mean, what possessed you for Dentaltown? How did that come about?
Well, I had interesting journey in the fact that, the reason people pay so much money for a franchise is because 5 years later, 10 years later, 95, 96, 97% are still in business. Whereas when you look at restaurants, 60% are out of business in the first 2 years. It's an extremely fatal job. And dentists have no idea what competition is. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, in dentistry, you only go bankrupt if you have your license taken away, and that's usually the police are involved. I mean, if you're not arrested, you're not going bankrupt. And restaurants are just brutal. Well, they had a lot of support, and they'd have all these meetings, and we live in Dallas, and we'd get in Dad's car and drive all the way to Dallas, Texas, to go to restaurant conventions. And I even got to hear Ray Kroc speak when I was a little kid. So I learned all the demographics. I learned all the stuff, and I learned that there's a hamburger, but there's the business of hamburgers. And it looks real easy when you drive by McDonald's. You say, well, it's no big deal. They just got the busy intersection. They got a drive through. They have a hamburger, fry, and Coke. It's real cheap. Yeah, try to pull that off. I mean, the cheapest thing you charge for in dentistry is what, a PA or a bite wing? What's the cheapest? What is the most expensive thing you buy at McDonald's? A hamburger?
Right.
And it was
and an X-ray is more money. So
And then I would go to work with Kenny, and, Kenny, the dentist, Anderson, all of his prices are rounded off, like, 500 for a crown, 500 for a denture, 500 for a partial. These are fees from way back.
right.
But I thought, my God, and then my dad, he worked all day, every day, 7 days a week till he dropped dead. And Kenny Anderson had 3-day weekends after working only Monday through Thursday from 7 to 4. And my dad always told me, he always said, Howie, if you had one brain in your cell in your head, you become a damn dentist like that Kenny Anderson. And so when I decided that I was going to open up my dental office, I went right back into Sonic Drive-In franchise mode about the demographics and hiring and HR and just all the things, and accounting and profitability, all that stuff. But I was always amazed that I love dentistry more than anything, and I'd read these magazines like the Journal American Dental magazine, which actually quit printing the print version this year. It doesn't even exist anymore.
Never heard of them.
Be like there are articles on how much fluoride to cause a sarcoma in a rat's rear, and I'd read all these articles and I'd say, yeah, this interesting stuff, but I'm running a dental office, and my gosh, and then luckily I got asked to invite back to lecture my school, and I went back there and lectured to the school, and it was a big hit. And because they were your classmates, and a lot of them are having problems, and a lot of this stuff wasn't taught, and one thing led to another. Now I've lectured in 50 countries several times, but I wanted a magazine that a dentist could read to help him, help him or her
Get by their own business, right?
Real world dental office today.
That's awesome. And then just on a side note, because I remember when I would post a case for Snap-on, I was so nervous, because you really were what I call a disruptor, in the sense that you came to dentistry, you were a little brash or very brash. That was the reputation. Didn't care what anyone said. As you grew, you really didn't care what anyone said. But that's great. But you really were such a mentor or a beacon for a lot of us that wanted to get into the entrepreneurial world. And I just think it was ingenious to develop those townies. And I wanted to give a shout out to somebody that's been with you for a number of years, who I think is a phenomenal guy, and that's Tom Giacobbe. I think Tom is one of the great guys. I don't know if you're still together. I saw him at the convention. Tom's a great guy. And when he came aboard Dentaltown, I thought it would take another leap. And I just like Tom a lot. I find him to be a real good guy. And that's sort of like mainstreamed you a little bit. Tom is really a little straight shooter, not the way you are, but he's a little more of a
He's
easy. He's good. But my question was, where did the townies come from? Was that something you thought of? Was it something that people started just sending in quotes and questions? And how'd that go? Because that was
it all started with AOL. Remember when they were mailing everybody that CD-ROM on hello AOL? And I got that because the teachers, I have 4 boys, and they were supposed to get the internet for their homework and to do science projects or whatever. And I got that AOL, and I was looking at that, and then I finally realized, oh my gosh, this technology. I could start a website, because I was professionally lonely inside, because, you'd be sitting there looking at an x-ray and you'd be thinking, is this a cavity? Is it not a cavity? Or why is this, you had all these questions, and everyone that loved you couldn't help you. Your assistant couldn't help you. Your hygienist couldn't help you. Your office manager, your mom, your dad, your brother. Nobody can help you. And then the dentist across the street, they always, it was competition. They shouldn't,
Right.
So I knew it had to be dental student, back from dental school, and then when I put it all together, and I thought, oh my god, and I had just reached a point in my life where I had finally paid out my practice, my house, my student loans, and I had saved $1 million. My ex was happier than the queen of the world until I made the decision that no, we are going to take that 100,000 and we are going to hire 18 programmers. I hired all I could, build Dentaltown, and it took them a year. And not only did it burn up that money, but I had to go back. A friend of mine, Neil Enright, I said, I can't believe I couldn't get this up for $1 million. I need another $1 million. So he loaned me another $1 million.
Wow.
And so I went from debt free, $1 million in cash to now $1 million
in debt.
and that did not go over well with my dad, my mom, my sisters, my ex. Everybody thought I had lost my freaking mind. But I just knew that, my God, if those dentists, I just thought with Dentaltown, no dentist would ever have to practice solo again. You don't know what to do. The patient's getting numb, run back into the website, post the x-ray or a photo, or just tell us what you're thinking. And man, this was 5 years before Facebook. And man, 1,000 dentists sign up a month. And it was just off to the races of the whole internet revolution.
Complete visionary in that. And I mean that. Unbelievable. So you took really, it was focused for the solo dentist.
It was focused for me. I wouldn't say I'm a pig there. I'd say I was very, very selfish that I was trying to do this for me. I wanted to show a picture to you, Mark, so that you could think, well, what would you do? And you could run through everything you thought of. Well, adjust the bite, or, this or that, or whatever. And I just wanted, to someone that wasn't my mom or my dad or my dental assistant to tell me,
Give you a little advice.
give me some advice. And it's stressful when you have to make all those. When you're a private practice owner, you have to wear every hat. And it begins with the clinical dentistry. And I just thought this would be a godsend. And I really believed it because I put every single thing I had into it, and everything I could borrow. And it was true. It worked. But we've learned so much over the last 25 years. I mean, now those decisions, I mean, with the journey, it's the journey, and we've learned so much on that journey. And now I feel really blessed because now I get to do it again. I mean, I rode the social, if you go back to, history of stocks or the economy of the Industrial Revolution, it started off with an internal combustion engine. And it was so big and bulky, they could only pump water out of flooded coal mines in England. But as time goes by, everything gets faster, easier, higher quality, lower and scalable, smaller, larger. And it only got small enough and it disrupted the steam engines. And now you didn't have to sail. And then when the steam engines got here, they need to be unloaded all that cargo on railroads and canals and one thing. And it was, all the big money and all the big activity is when the next best thing comes out, whether it be a car or an airplane or the internet. And I was real, and I that AOL thing, and at the same time, Amazon had gone public, and that was about 94. So I was watching Amazon. I couldn't understand why the stock was going so crazy. And then I went to Barnes and Noble, and I one day my kids were there, and we were after a movie, and then I went up to the lady. I said, "Do you have any books on this internet thing?" And she says, "We have 4 books on the internet." And I said, "Well, I want them all." And I bought all 4 of them books, and I read them over the next couple of months. And I was watching Amazon and watching him talk all the time. And then I finally put 2 and 2 together and thought, oh my God, I could build this for me. I didn't want to sell online books or shoes or any of that stuff. I said, oh my God, I could use this for me. So I could send Mark a picture, an x-ray. And once I realized that I could be connected to all the other dentists, oh my God. I mean, I just didn't make it. And we were burning through like $90,000 a month in programming fees. I'd never looked at the 90,000. I thought, well, how much longer is it going to take? I mean, I just wanted it now.
Right. Get it right.
And now I'm so lucky now, 25 years later, I'm doing that again with the next big thing. And I realize that.
Want to share it?
Yeah. You're not going to release it till the due date is April 15th. Well, we figured it out September 5th. not last September, the September 5th before that. So like 16 months ago. But, same thing with Amazon. I was watching Amazon, like, why is it going up? Why is it going up? And then AI came out. And I'm like, what is everybody talking about AI? And reading books, and then downloaded ChatGPT. Then I realized, oh my God, we have 7 million questions have been asked and answered on Dentaltown and more on Hygiene Town, Orthotown. I've had magazine articles that have been published for 25 years in Dentaltown, Orthotown, Hygiene Town. I have, I did a podcast. I have 1,600 transcripts from podcasts. PubMed has 70,000 dental articles. And I took all of that data and built my own large language model, ChatGPT, and it is insane, and it is just crazy. And I mean, if you're and we even have dental students look into it. It answers every single one of their questions on their test. I mean, we haven't seen a test yet where it doesn't give you the answer. And it's just a total game changer.
Is this going to be a subscription? Or what? How you?
No. It's just going to be on Dentaltown. But the problem was when we finished that, like 6 months ago. I mean, we went right after that and finished it. But the problem was Dentaltown. It's hosted by my own servers in Phoenix. And then I started realizing, like, Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, whose dad is a dentist, Ed Zuckerberg, and I podcasted him 3 times and met his wife Karen and all that stuff. And his son's a multi-billionaire, and he doesn't even host his own website. He hosts it on AWS, Amazon Web Services, because they got these big web services, data centers all around the world. In order to crunch that data, because when I was crunching on mine, I'm like, well, they're not going to wait this long for the answer. And then we realized, well, yeah, it's because, it needs to be crunched. So we finally made the extremely painful decision, like 6 months, almost a year ago, that the only way this was going to work, we were going to have to rewrite every single line of code for Dentaltown, because it's all the old language stuff, and it needed to be the new language stuff and Python programming. And so we're converting all this C++ and SQL Server and all this stuff like that to Python.
What keeps you going, Doc?
What keeps me going? It's so cool because with this, I mean, think about this Python. Think about your practice management. You could hook this up to your practice management and hook it up to your Quicken. And then instead of getting on your practice management where they have a gazillion reports, you don't know which one to run, that the report generator has showed every dental consultant that any dental office you walk into, you go to the report generator, 85% of all the reports have never been ran. It's not natural. But you go with ChatGPT and look at my new best friend, ChatGPT, and just hit the icon. What is the average overhead of a dental office?
Well, the average overhead for a dental office typically ranges between 60 to 70% of revenue.
So imagine a ChatGPT with all the data on Dentaltown. Because if I said to you, Mary had a little
lamb.
Okay, lamb. Well, that's ChatGPT. That's everything, the Mary had a lamb. But in dentistry, maybe Mary had a little broken tooth. Maybe she had a little molar. Maybe she had a little bump on her, So less is more. It's kind of like specialty. I'm a general dentist. I think I know a lot about dentistry, but I do not know it at the level of an oral surgeon, endodontist, periodontist, pediatric dentist, orthodontist, prosthodontist, dental anesthesiologist, oral facial pain, oral medicine, oral path, oral radiology, or dental public health. I mean, there are 12 specialties. And when I ask these questions on like a ChatGPT, it's more like a general public answer. But when I ask it in a database where every Mary had no one ever said Mary had a little lamb on Dentaltown. But they'll say Mary had a little molar, Mary had a little fracture, and you keep it real dental specific, and then links to the PubMed article that we pulled it from, or link to the threads that this has been discussed. And then what's also cool is, let's say you're on Dentaltown and you ask the question. At first I thought, well, if anybody asks a question, we should just automatically have us answer it, have our chat. And we thought, no, that might be annoying and this and that. But if someone quests, they're going to just sit there and say, ask Howie. and they'll click the Ask Howie, and then it'll give that. But what's cool is, let's say it was wrong and it said Mary had a little lamb instead of Mary had a little molar.
Right.
Well, you could correct that. And then with AWS, that rolls right back into your large language model and it's all recirculating. So every time someone posts a video, it will transcribe it to the words, and then the words are in there and they're in there. And so it should be up to date. And, it just
Amazing.
it
And that's what
basically said September 5th of 2023.
it's coming out April 15th, 2025.
Come out
Oh,
next day.
wow, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I do want to segue into that. I mean, you've seen so many changes as I have in dentistry. What do you think of, I've been professing about the super generalist, and I think what you're creating is really in line of what I'm saying. I mean, I think today with technology, and I would love for your opinion, is there's something called a super generalist. They could do endo, they could do surgery with bone grafting, they could place implants, root canal therapy, and of course, crown and bridge cosmetics. Then they can get into the other hand where there's sleep, there's trigger point injections, Botox if you want. I feel the first five creates that super generalist. Your platform, what you're creating, will be an amazing tool. But that's what we do when we have multiple practices. We mentor these doctors. So I'm wondering, do you believe in that? I mean, you mentioned 12 specialties that know more dentistry than you. I don't believe that, and I don't. I think you're just being kind. But I mean, how do you feel, on a side note, about those dentists that are now super generalists? They could do multiple things and they could do it well. Do you think that's the future, or do you think that's dangerous?
No, I mean, it's reality. It's what we live in. I mean, there's 8 billion people and there's 2 million dentists. And you go into just the United States, let's like just the United States, half of the towns and villages and cities and all the towns in the United States, under 5,000, they don't have one specialty. So when I was at orthodontics, and when I was at UMKC and orthodontics, all they wanted to teach us was like embryology and facial bones and all. And I said, when do we actually get to bring out the wires and the brackets, the bands? And they said, well, if you want to do that, you need to go to ortho school. And I said, well, what about the dentists in this class right here who are going back to a town that doesn't have an orthodontist? And they're like, And then you start going into countries. I mean, there's a dentist for every 2,000 people in America. You go to the poorest countries in the world, there's only a dentist for every 50,000 people. Right. And so if you're, depending on your demographics, where you're at, and that's what I always tell dentists, well, should I learn TMJ or should I learn equal, what do you think I should focus on? I said, I think you should focus on who's coming through your front door. And if you're in Hollywood and everybody wants veneers because they're all going to be movie stars, then maybe you should be an expert in veneers. But if you're in Eloy, Arizona, and no one ever went to Hollywood from Eloy, Arizona, and they don't have, it's like, why are you going to Pankey and Spear and Coyce to learn full mouth rehab for $50,000 if your full mouth rehab in your town is a full mouth denture? And, dentures are still the biggest cosmetic treatment. And I personally know several people, including, I shouldn't say, but, family members, where their biggest, my own mother, okay, all I'll say is I'm sure she won't hear this on the podcast.
I thought she's still alive. Good pass. Me too.
84, and she doesn't listen to podcasts, so she's not going to be insulted on this. No one's going to find out, but I mean, it was a game changer for her. I mean, my gosh, I know one of my grandkids' babysitter, horrible teeth, went and got a full mouth immediate denture, and she looks 10 years younger. She come to life. She's doing more hobbies. You can just tell she's happier. But, if everybody coming through your door, needs a full mouth denture, well, then you probably shouldn't learn veneers. I mean, so I'd say focus on your customers and where your demographics and where you're at. And like even DSOs, like all these people worried about DSOs. I don't know why. Competition always makes every industry better. But the DSOs, they're not in rural America. They say the markets are too small. The employees, the jobs they have don't have dental insurance. They tend to be more Medicaid, Medicare. So all your DSOs are focused on $60,000 a year median household income, where people are employed with dental benefits. The only people who are bucked at are Aspen. Aspen's the only one that I think's at a focused model. They all have a denture center. In fact, I lost my uncle to Aspen Dental because when he came to me, he had to drop off his removable in the morning, come back, pick it up at the end of the day, for free. But when he could go to Aspen and they did it right there in the waiting room while he waited for 1 hour, it was worth it to him to pay the cash. And that's what competition does. But before DSOs, if you fell down and broke off your front tooth on a Sunday, good luck trying to find a dentist. They don't exist on a Sunday. And then when DSOs came here, immediately one of the chains had a 7 day a week. And so the customer wins.
But what about Dr. Main Street? I mean, you must have friends. I have friends, solo practitioners you're at a Main Street USA. How do they compare? How do they compete with the DSOs in marketing, staffing, supply costs? I mean, why do behemoths like Shine, Patterson, Benco, they give deals to the biggest and make the smallest pay through the nose? I think there's something has to be right-sided with that, or else you're not going to have a solo dentist.
Well, let's go through some of those. Number one, we just saw Patterson get taken private, right?
Right.
And I have nothing to, this is just my opinion. It's not fact or anything, but Shine will be the next one right behind it. And so they're all going to be retooling because, these guys in medical are saying, my God, in medicine, the margin on this stuff is 10%. In dentistry, it's 35%. So all the medicine boys are like, okay, well, Patterson's not doing too good in dentistry. I don't care. I want to figure it out. I'll just go in and fix, But when you talk about staff, that's your ally. The biggest problem on these DSOs is the staff turnover. I mean, you meet any dentist that's been out of school 5 years, they've had 5 jobs. And if you practice in Phoenix, Arizona, which is, the city limits is 1 million, the metro's 5, there's so many DSOs out here, and they all come back and say the same thing. Well, I went in there, and this dentist there, this young, handsome dentist named Marc, said that I had 4 cavities. And then I went in there to get them done, and Marc's no longer working there. And they had some other guy named Chris, and now he says I have 5 cavities, and I just wanted to come back to you. And so we are selling the invisible. This is not a commodity product. When you go to a hotel and the maid cleans your room, why does she put a little slip of paper around the toilet seat and a little cardboard lid above the glass cup? Because she's not there, and she's trying to show you I was here. So she's selling the invisible. When you order room service and they bring it up to you and there's a little piece of parsley on your dinner, I mean, what is that parsley for? It's selling the invisible, that I'm a chef and I really care about this food. In dentistry, I mean, I could pull up a pano and I could bring in 100 lawyers in a row as new patients and point to those mental foramens and say, look at that, man. This is why we take a pano. That is a cyst. And you know how you can tell if it's cancerous? It's exactly bilateral. Look at the same spot on the other side, and there's another mental foramen cyst. That is cancer, buddy. And I could have them sweating, having a heart, because they don't know.
That guy needs to go. He needs to go somewhere.
Well, we're selling the invisible. It's all about trust. And how do I trust you? And then you say, well, you trust the brand. Well, Aspen's developing brand, but Heartland, if they bought my office, they would have called it Today's Dental. I mean, they're kind of like, what is the grocery store chain that owns Fry's?
Yeah, like, what is that, Whole Foods and those?
Yeah, the deal about, you talk about a super generalist or a super expert or whatever. I think what a dentist has to be is have a super rock star personality and start walking in the room, running for mayor. If you're a dentist and you're always running for mayor, and you should know before you walk in there, okay, Marc, his wife's name is this, he has 3 kids, he went to Penn State, whatever. And if you don't have a rapport, and if you can't talk to people, and that's why a lot of these kids, when they get out of dental school,
You make a living.
yeah, and they open. I tell them when they're in dental school, and I tell them when they open up a practice, you know what you need to do? You need to go get a job as a bartender until you can talk to anybody. Or
I'm going to tell you something. 3rd-year student, my youngest son, he's 25. I have 3 boys. My youngest son is a dental student in Truro. They brought in actors and actresses to receive treatment plans from them, to develop their communication skills. I thought it was incredible. Literally, they're telling the actor what they need, how this transfers, how this translates, what are we going to do? And then they go back and grade them. And they don't know which one of their 3 or 4 patients that day is an actor. So it's just unbelievable that it's so true what you said. You can have the worst skills, but you can be an amazing gift to gab. You're going to be a very successful dentist.
And we've all seen that. And all the heart doctors in town, all the cardiologists always have to take time out of their appointment to tell you about the big famous guy in Phoenix and how they're not impressed and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, well, he's on TV every day. He's got the biggest, we all see that you're going to win on reducing your staff turnover. If every time they come in for a cleaning, oh, is Macy going to clean my teeth? No, I'm sorry. She's no longer with us. We have a new girl named Karen. Why? I remember at my office when I sold it, the new hygienist, the new one, had been there like 14 years.
Right.
My dental assistant retired when I sold my office after 30 years. It got to the point where people didn't even need to talk to me. They call and they go, well, Dr. Fran's with the patient, but they'd say, well, is Jan busy? In fact, a lot of people just call and ask for Jan. They didn't even want to talk to me. And
tremendous compliment to you.
And when I walk in Walgreens, those pharmacists have been there forever. The guy next door to my office, Brad, he's still working there, and he's been there forever. I just don't see that at any of these DSOs. So the DSOs, they're new.
The whole thing is healthcare. The benefits that they give and the packages that they give. It's hard for a doc to compete. We're looking for $26, $25 an hour. They'll give them $25 an hour plus a medical plan. So that's my point. We have to go the extra yard to keep these people in private practice and keep them with us so they don't turn over. Look, I had an assistant for 27 years. I have somebody who works for me for close to 15. I think it's a lot to do with how you talk to them, respect them. Hopefully they see the forest between the trees and they recognize you're a good person. You want to take them to the next level. But you're right. The revolving door is a killer. It's a killer, whether it's a front desk person, a doctor, or a hygienist. Killer.
And the other thing, it's all based on trust. If I walk into you and you tell me I have 4 cavities or 5, what am I going to base this on? Geometry, algebra, physics? I have to trust you. And I'm looking around, and is your office clean or is it filthy? That's your infection control. If you have dust on your baseboards and ceiling fans and you're out of toilet paper, you're a filling station dental office. There are women sitting in a chair looking at you lean them back just to look at the black layer of dust around the ceiling fan, and she's thinking, oh my God, am I going to catch a disease?
That's right. 100%. Patients are always looking.
I was practicing when AIDS came out. Remember Kimberly Bergalis, who said she caught AIDS at a dental office? And for a year, I had to put up with that for years. The only way I could get them to shut up is I had in each one of my drawers, I had a bunch of condoms right by my gloves. And they'd say, well, I'm concerned about AIDS. And I'd say, well, AIDS is a sexually transmitted disease. And I'd pull out a condom. I said, if you put this on me, I'll wear it during the root canal. And then I followed up. I said, if your husband came home with gonorrhea and said he caught it from his dentist, I want to marry you. Can I get them? And then that turned out that, that was all, crazy stories. But the point I was making is that infection control is why you have a maid service, because dental assistants clean instruments and they don't do what those maids do is what they do in all the houses that expect it to be clean. They do baseboards and toilets and ceiling fans and all that stuff like that. And trust is the deal where, if this house is a revolving door and you don't remember my name, and dentists walk in there and they're already, look at, I'll give you the best example. Here's the best example I can concretely tell you. Look at DSOs. Look how far they've got to go. They all started. Now in medicine, they started differently. They all started at the very top, like Mayo Brothers. They're like, why do you keep telling these old ladies with cancer to go home and die and give them morphine when she's sitting on a frickin' 100-acre wheat farm? She's 80 years old, and she'd sell that entire wheat farm and take all the millions if she could beat this cancer and live another year or 2 or 3 or 4, and everyone else that was no. So they all started at the top, whether it be Scripps or Sloan Kettering or, they all start at the top. But I like the DSOs the only DSOs that are publicly traded now I mean, there were some early ones, Monarch, and there were a few, but they're all gone. And now they're going to be, I think that, just like I said, I'm thinking that Shrine will follow Patterson. I'm also thinking MB2 will be the first IPO in
I think so. I heard Heartland is going.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
And
I know MB2. MB2 is a lot like the group we're with, Guardian, where we're not in the West Coast, so you probably never heard of us. But MB2 is that DPO. It's a partnership organization. So the idea is, in my opinion, watching the groups the last 10 years as I have, I think they're getting, like you pointed out, some of them are getting more concerned with the tidiness, the cleanliness, the lack of revolving door. They give people what they want, but ultimately it's about dollars. And if the dollars get squeezed, if they need it, this one goes, that one's cheaper. This one will take that one, won't clean the office every day. We'll clean it 3 times a week. To your point, it's all about numbers. It's hard. It's a hard business. I mean,
and that's why I think they're going to go public first, because, ask any business lawyer, if you're a minority owner, you own nothing. I mean, if I own 51% and you own 49%, it's Howie's way every time. You have nothing. And then when you go to sell, well, you have a very limited, I mean, before the stock market, the stock market is just liquidity. There used to be hundreds of Americans who invested in companies and own shares, but they're sitting there in Fort Scott, Kansas. They own 100 shares of this factory. Well, who do they sell it to? And what are their, so I think MBT would be perfect, because if I'm going to go in and buy, and I'm going to own 25% of this, I want it in publicly traded shares. And then if I need some money, I can sell some of my shares. If I want to sell it all, I can sell it all. And if there's a big dip and I'm locked in, I'm going to be there for 30 years.
I might buy more.
I'm going to buy on the dip.
Exactly.
So I think, and also look at the pauses in DSOs. The most successful DSO. I go back and tell you the other story. Then I go to that other one. Remind me to come back and tell you about the most successful DSO in America. But we're back to this trust thing. And you could very mechanically dissect this trust. The only publicly traded DSOs, what are their actual names? It's 1-300 Smiles, Pacific Smiles Group, and Q&M out of Singapore. So 2 in Australia, 1-300 Smiles, and Pacific Smile Group. And none of them have hygienists. What did they learn? And by the way, they don't have the hygienists, they don't have debt, and they grow their stores in cash earnings. They're up to about 100 locations in cash, no debt. What did they find out? They found out that when you have a $50 hour hygienist doing a $50 hour cleaning with a $20 an hour dental assistant. So this hygienist goes out there for $50 an hour. She sets up a room. She goes and she seats the patient. She does the x-rays, the probing. And when she gets to the probing, she needs to call in a $25 hour assistant. So now she's in there doing the probing at 50 with an assistant at 25. So now we got $75 of labor in this room for a $50 cleaning. And then when she's done, or he's done, when they're all done, they need the dentist. The average one waits 10 minutes for the dentist. So then the dentist comes in there and the patient's all this upside down. He's got his loops on and all that stuff. And she's sitting down and she double checks the x-ray that says, okay, you look good. You just have these 2 cavities on the 3 and 4. So just schedule 2 fillings, you're done. And then they leave. Well, that's a recall exam. And almost no one schedules for treatment on the recall exam. Everybody schedules for all the big treatment plans on the new patient exam. So they sat there and they took out the hygienist, and they saw that the hygienist was waiting 10 minutes for the dentist to come in and do 4 minutes. We'll just round that off to 5. And he said, let's do this. Now we'll have a $25 an hour assistant set up the room, go seat the patients, take the bite wings. And then when she's ready, then she'll go get the dentist. Now the dentist is going to come in there for 15 minutes. And he's going to go in there and he's going to press the flash. Mark, how you doing? How's the dog? How's the wife? Is it true your kid's in dental school? And all that, secretes some dopamine and serotonin. And then I'm going to look at the x-rays. I'm going to read the x-rays with you. And that's why I think Pearl is very, very good. I don't need digital radiography. What I need digital radiography the most is the cells effect on the patient. I mean, it really is impressive when you see this digital.
I love a pan.
And then I'm going to lean them back and I'm going to probe. And now I got the assistant there probing. And then when I'm done, I'm just going to scale. But I'm going to be in there 15 minutes. Well, because you're in there the same length of time as the new patient exam, guess what percent of your treatment plan gets accepted? The same percentage is on a new patient exam. And that new patient exam has been seeing a dentist every 6 months for 5 years, and all this stuff has been building up, and it never got done. And it never got done because it's not, do I work for Heartland or Aspen or Today's Dental? It's, I'm Howard. How are you, Mark? And I'm going to spend some time with you. And if I spend time with you, I don't have to pay a $50 an hour hygienist. And then you're just not going to walk out and not schedule your treatment.
Would you do that model?
What I would say is you got to be humble. I mean, if you come out of dental school and the people that have 100 dental offices with no debt, building dental office in cash, they only have one model. I mean, you'd have to be a pretty arrogant kid to sit there and say,
I have to look into it. Right.
I know you're than Alex Habrams and Daryl Holmes and Raymond Ang, who's started off in Singapore and now he's just doing a full sprint across rural China. I mean, these guys in America, Rick Workman is a billionaire, but these guys, are right there. And now in America, what I'm most impressed with is 1 + 1 + 1. 1 + 1, it doesn't equal 2 or doesn't equal 3. I watch orthodontists come to Phoenix and set up their practice, and I watch pediatric dentists come and set up their practice. Well, if you're the type of mom that knows that there's a specialty for kids, you probably in a household income above 60,000, and you probably got dental insurance. And so if I go into a pediatric dentist, what am I going to say? Well, is little Billy going to need braces when he grows up? Oh, well, here's another referral slip. Hey, you got to drive down, miss work again, and all this. So you got to remember, when I was little, my 2 grandmas lived in Parsons, Kansas, and I was born in 62. And the best 2 weeks of my life every summer was a week at Grandma Mary's and a week at Grandma Nola's. And I had 5 sisters, and they'd send 2 at a time. It was the buddy system. And oh my God, it was awesome. But you realize that back then there was no grocery stores. We went to the bread man. We went to the butcher. I remember the butcher. I remember his name, Mark. And then there was a fruit stand. And then dry goods was at the hardware store. That was my favorite because that's where they sold candy, at the hardware store. And then by the time I was about 15 or 16, they started opening up this one roof that had all that inside. Now I'm 62. I buy my clothes at the same time I'm buying my butter at Walmart. I mean, oh my God. I mean, God, you're buying bread, butter. Yeah, I need socks.
I got to tell you, Howard, you are amazing. And this is great. I wanted to just chime in and ask you something. I just want you to give an idea to the listeners that us seeing an icon. I mean, you're a dental icon. I'm going to give you, you're so smart. You see things in such a great way. I could talk to you for hours. I really can. But what advice would you give a dentist who wants to become an entrepreneur today, who they want to find what I call their genius? Is it groups? Is it cosmetics, implants? How does somebody coming out of dental school with all this stuff that you just mentioned, how do they find their own genius? Any idea? Any guidance?
No, do you care? I don't want to embarrass you, but how old are you?
I'm your age. Exactly.
I'm 62.
Yep. 63.
And when you're 24 years old, they love listening to 60-year-old guys like us.
That's hope, though.
Podcasts are huge. So why are you watching Netflix? I mean, I know there's some amazing series on there, Breaking Bad. And I just watched one the other day. I can't believe I thought it was a movie. The cab driver told me I had to go in there and watch it. I didn't know.
What was it?
It was Griselda.
Oh, Griselda. Yeah, I saw that. That's weird. That was.
Oh my God, it's crazy. But it was a 6-part series. But when you're 24, you shouldn't be watching Breaking Bad and Griselda. You should be watching podcasts and getting on social media groups and pressing the flesh and getting out there. And it's like, you only live one life. But when you read an autobiography, you can live that whole person's life.
What a great What a great idea. Did you read
I've
that?
never read fiction to this day. I mean, you go in my library, there's 1,000 books, and every one of them is nonfiction. I don't have any fiction books. Now, I do some fiction in movies. I've watched Star Wars and things like that, but it's not my go-to. Like I learned more business by what was that series on Food Made in America or the restaurants that built America?
Yeah.
I mean, every one of those restaurants was built on one little specific idea. Like take Domino's. That guy was such a genius. He saw the pizzas delivered from Pizza Hut, and it looked like someone threw it out of a truck. I mean, it's all collapsed. He spent almost all of his seed money in his first year designing a perforated cardboard box that he knew, and it had a little plastic thing in the middle. And when he perfected his delivery, that's when his business started just exploding across the country.
I got to tell you, I watch a lot of that Bar Rescue, and
Yeah.
only because the way he tears it down and builds it up, whether it be the system that takes in the orders, whether it be the way they're dressed, the way they appear, but just what you've been talking about for the last half hour, everything directed towards just being the best we can be. And I love your idea about you've got so many options out there, everyone. If you're not listening to Howard Farran, Uncomplicate Business is his book. I'm jumping on that. I'm going to have it before the flight tonight. I'm telling you that. And I just sit here listening to everything I think of and thought of, and you put it so simply and succinctly, but it is really true. I mean, I always feel we should go in thinking the best. We're going to present the best. We're going to have the most it doesn't have to be the most beautiful office, but to your point, got to be clean. I always tell docs, sit where the patients sit in the waiting room once a week, see what's out there, sit in a chair and look at the vents that you've been talking about. But I wanted to ask how effectively is the leverage the platforms of Dentaltown and other avenues to further their professional development and practice growth? You're an advocate of continuing education. Today, it's so much easier, correct? I mean, you just continue as you're saying.
Well, COVID was a really big boom for Dentaltown's online CE. I mean, it exploded because people realized I don't have to fly all the way to Chicago to hear Marc and Howard. I can hear them on a podcast. So the online CE is great, and but I really think this AI is going to be amazing when you can just ask your own Dentaltown app on your phone, why is my overhead higher? When you can just talk to them the way home, like, well, any question you have. A lot of dentists have an hour commute to work, and they can sit there just like I do on my Chat GP and just, where you put a little widget on the front, you set up your deal and put a widget there, and it opens it up. And I think AI is going to be bigger than the Industrial Revolution. And I think it's going to be insane. And I tell every kid I know that if you're in high school or college or whatever, MIT thought they could serve the world better by putting all their classes online for free. They have a 6-week class on AI, and it's free. And I know several people that when they got that, the only thing that costs money is just like Dentaltown. For dental students, all the CE is free. But if you want a certificate or something, you got to pay $10 or something for the cost of that. But you get the certificate from MIT, it's like $10. But I know 3 people who got a job for $85,000 a year, and all they did was that MIT deal. I mean, that trying to find an AI programmer is insane. And I went through this 25 years ago when I was doing Dentaltown. That was from 94 to 2000 was the internet boom. And I was hiring programmers. Clear back then, they were $100,000 a year. But as soon as that bubble popped, then they went all the way down to, 60, 50, 40, and then slowly built back up. But I mean, right now, Python.
Get back up.
I go to the universities. I go to the colleges around here, and I talk to the programming department. And I said, well, how many kids are you going to graduate from in AI this year? And they just laugh. They go, no one goes all the way through. They all get jobs freshman year, sophomore year.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just the beginning. I mean, this is going to be a game changer. I told you this would be 30, 35 minutes. It's been almost an hour. Dr. Howard Farran, you're amazing. But before I let you go, I just have to say, first of all, again, thank you. But I want to know what your final thoughts would be to share with listeners, your listeners, my listeners, dentists out there. What would be the continuous learning, building a business in this climate? Do you think it's clinical? Is it business acumen? You're somebody like I like to believe I've developed to merge the two, understand how to run a business. You've obviously really educated yourself in running a business. Coming out of dental school today, like you said, don't watch movies. Build your tools, build your talent, build your knowledge. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And and a lot of people say they want to go to a DSO because they don't want to worry about all the business and all that stuff. I mean, what greater place to learn business than you wouldn't work for Rick Workman. I mean, he's got 1,000 offices and you work there for 3 years and you never check the insurance, how they bill claims, how they got in marketing. So just stay interested in all those aspects. Always have attitude determines your altitude. It's all about your attitude. Learn you're learning from the biggest and the best. And when you really get good in those companies, there's a lot of people at Heartland that have stayed there for years and became multi-millionaires. But those are the ones that didn't have that attitude, like, I don't want to work for DSO. But one thing I've noticed about our age, and I'm going to say this open up. I mean, you see it around the world. Like I think it's crazy. I learned something about lecturing that I never knew before. I was born and raised in Kansas, went to Creighton in Nebraska, dental school in Missouri, practiced out here in Arizona, had about a 4-state mentality. And then I realized that, oh my God, there's 8 billion people trapped on a rock and they're going through all the same things. Like I'm old enough to see all the countries when they were all right wing going left and then left to right and then right to left. I laugh when people say, they tell you these big long reasons of why Trump beat Kamala and they tell you all these reasons. And I go, really? Well, how does that reason tie into the fact that every incumbent lost in Canada and France and Germany and I lived through this. It's like they all got fired and they all went this way and the pendulum swung. Then those guys all got fired and they all went this way. And dentistry, it's not going away. I mean, Pierre Fauchard was 200 years ago. Dentistry starts with one thing. I have pain. I have a toothache. I'm going to get out a gold coin and I'm going to go find a dentist and he's going to pull my tooth. And then eventually they learn how to save it with a root canal, build it in crown, or pull it and place an implant. But it all starts with pain. And if you can't get look at a hospital. Every hospital in America has an emergency room. You don't need an appointment. And that's why dentists are not real doctors, because you cannot go to the gosh darn emergency room with a tooth. And if I was going to start a DSO, I could get free rent by every emergency room because 8% of their room out there, backing everything up, waiting 3 hours, is odontogenic in origin. And if the lady out there in charge say, by the way, if this is dental related, you need to go through that door right there. And that's what a real doctor is. And if you can't get me out of pain by pulling a tooth, and it'd be nice if you could fall out of an implant and a crown, or you can get me out of pain with a root canal. All you can do is pull out a slip of paper and tell me that I need to go somewhere else. Well, at that point, you're not even a dentist. Okay. At that point, you're a cosmetologist.
Very true. So I think what we're learning from Dr. Howard Farran is learn your craft, study your ability, learn how to take teeth out gently, carefully, efficiently, root canals, great online, great courses all over the country. You don't have to leave your home. I mean, look at Dentaltown with the array of things that are coming out. I got to tell you, this was better than I thought it would be, a lot better. And I would love to have just buy you dinner somewhere.
Well, we'll have to do it.
Pick your brain because you are unbelievable. And in New York, I stuck with one city, New York City. Grew up there in New York City, went to school at Penn, but I then came back and practiced for many years. And you're 100% right in everything we're discussing. I do think dentistry has so many different niches and different, like you said before, you got to know your patient load. But I do think that it is the dentists that are coming out that understand once you finish dental school, the career begins. It's not over. That's when you go and you learn how to really be a great dentist. And I think people like yourself and some of the docs you mentioned, It's the Mount Rushmore. I mean, you get a guy like you, and people are hearing, even you today, are saying, learn your craft, get educated, learn how to run your business, learn how to look at the KPIs and understand why is your overhead 65, 70% when it could be 50%, and you could put all that money in your pocket. Do I buy my building? Do I not? There's so much to talk about. But in closing, other than Dentaltown, are you available if anybody wants to reach out? Do they just go to Dentaltown and ask Howie?
Yep.
Or do
But you know what? We're April 15th, we're going to go from with Dentaltown in 1999.
Wow.
No dentist ever has to practice solo again. And April 15th, we're going to go to no dentist will ever not have to know what all the dentists that went before them already figured out with AI. I mean, you just ask it.
Incredible endeavor.
Every dentist that ever lived or left a mark, or if you left, any trace of your thoughts, they're out there. And I think this is going to be truly exciting times.
Unbelievable.
And dentistry will be here a million years from now. So it's not.
I'm going to say one thing. You mentioned somebody winning. I say thank God. I say thank God for guys like you and for you. I mean, really, you're my age. You've done so much in this field. I thought I did a lot. You're just amazing. And I'm really so glad and honored that you came on to my cast and talked to me about what you're doing and what makes you tick. It's unbelievable. Your kids are blessed. You're blessed.
You're too kind.
No, I mean it. I mean it. You're really great. And let me just say this: the rumors of you being feisty and this and that are over exaggerated. You are a sweetheart, and I thank you so much. And the next time I see you, I'm going to give you a hug and I'm going to buy you dinner. But
I'll take you up on it.
Deal. All right.
All right,
Thank you
so much.
April 15th, everybody. It's going to change the landscape of dental knowledge, and I cannot wait to see it.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Dr. Farran. Thank you, Howie. Take care. All the best. You're the best. Thank you. Hi. I wanted to recap what we just experienced. A man, Dr. Howard Farran, who has dedicated his adult life to the profession of dentistry. I mean, think about it. He talks about getting our wares, getting our ability to do quality dentistry, do great dentistry. So as it comes to the Hamsa, Howard fits right in. He's a mentor at long distance because I've watched this man create a publication, and now he's on the verge of creating one of the most exciting things I've ever heard of. He's taking and gathering all the Dentaltown questions, all the articles. He's extracting all the information and creating an amazing dental encyclopedia on treatment planning, disease, communication, business, which he is an expert and a book writer and an author on that. So what an amazing hour we just had with a true Mount Rushmore. He's coming out with this unbelievable project on April 15th, tax day. With the exception of tax day, what a heck of a guy. But other than that, everyone, just look at how much he's dedicated of his life. And remember, we'll see you next time on Dentistry Beyond the Numbers.